this StreamYard. And there we are. We're live.
Cool.
So what's it like in Montana today?
Wind advisory, really nutty weather. Yesterday was bluebird, awesome, good fishing day. I had a guide trip, and then today is just like terrible weather. Yeah, so it's springtime. It just does that.
So we'll just chat for a couple minutes until we start seeing people come in. So
cool.
Yeah.
I forget that this is like a work day. Like you're working from home right now.
I am. I've got a pretty nice setup here. I have my fly tying right here. I have my Mac for video editing and about 20 terabytes of video footage. I've got another desktop computer there. I've got my work laptop here. I've got lights, studio lights.
Oh
all and you know, so it's all right here.
That's gonna be hard to go back to the office.
I'm not going back.
Oh, at all?
I'm not going back. I'm not going back.
Yeah,
there's no reason to go back to the office.
Yeah. Well, maybe everybody could see you.
They don't.
Yes, they do. We're gonna, when he pauses like that on the screen, we're just gonna.
We'll wait a second here. There we go. So we're here today with Orvis ambassador, Yeti ambassador, Patagonia ambassador. Who else? Are you a Scientific Anglers ambassador too?
Yeah. Well, I just got this sweatshirt back from Delaney. She's worn this almost every single day through the lockdown. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And it's the only piece of clothing I think that she has that isn't like on the floor. She has it all hung up. So it's like, I'm going to steal it back. Yeah.
So Hilary, and let's see, what else do you do? You do videos. You are a guide, a professional guide, full-time Montana fishing guide. You have a fly shop, which is now doing some internet business. And what else do you do? Guiding is my full-time job, but that's because in the summertime it's every single day, and we have a pretty short growing season, we call it. So we're not really wintertime guiding like there are in other parts of the world. So it's every day in the summer, and then the fly shop in the winter, and then a bunch of writing, stuff like that, conservation work for folks like yourself. So you do a lot of conservation work. You do a ton of conservation work.
Well, it's all linked. It's all that's fishing. You're in fishing. You're in
and you are also the first female field editor of Fly Fisherman magazine, right?
Yeah, that's been cool. I mean, I think there's lots of great, female writers out there, but I remember when I was in college, that's what I wanted to do in college was, write for Fly Fisherman magazine or fishing magazine. And when I was in college, people didn't say, oh, you can't do that because you're a girl. It was more like, that's not a real job. Nobody just writes for fishing magazines. So finally that's an actual real job for me, which is good.
Well, in those days, college age girls didn't fly fish either, right?
I think it was more like nobody shut me down. Like that's, you can't do it because you're a girl. It was more like they would just look at me weird. Like, why are you saying that? Why would you want to do that?
Yeah. So why don't you introduce your fishing pals there, Hilary?
Yeah, these are my lockdown fishing buddies. It's my daughter, Delaney, right here. She is sweet 16 on Friday, turning 16.
Congratulations.
Yeah. She's a sophomore in high school, going to be a junior in high school. This is my oldest daughter, Ella. She's 17. She's going to be a senior this year in high school. And Ella's the one a lot of people know, like she doesn't fish a ton, but she goes fishing a lot. So she's on the sticks. So she's kind of like people in the town are realizing she could be their new BFF because, everybody's somebody to row. So she's and working hopefully this summer on trailer backing with these guys. That's the key. That's the missing link here is the trailer backing. We don't have tons of beautiful ramps. It's like, lots of down ditches around trees kind of thing. And it's a little hairy. So yeah, once their trailer backing is down, then we're golden. Delaney's the angler.
So let's talk about, a lot of people want to get their kids into fly fishing, and
as I've found out with Brett, it sometimes doesn't take, right? It just doesn't take, as you found out. What do you think it is about Delaney versus Ella that, one of your girls really turned on to fly fishing and the other one didn't?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think it is?
Well, I'm gonna have them answer too, but I personally think they're just different people. I mean, that's what an important thing about parenting is, just to remember, like, your kids aren't you, your kids aren't your parents, your kids aren't each other, your kids aren't just who you kind of dream them up to be. Like when you're pregnant and you're thinking like, who are you going to be, little one? They come out and they're like, rawr, not what you thought. They're like, absolutely not. And so if you are a loving parent and you're open-minded, then, you're going to be psyched on the exact person that they are, whoever they are. So for starters, they, opening up them to opportunity to be able to go outside and do things outdoors is the key. And then if fishing is part of the things that you like to do as a family, my feeling is that they will enjoy some aspect of that. I mean, for both of them, it started with like mud and rocks and being dirty and being on the water. And, there was a certain amount of time that I didn't even try to force them into fishing at all. But exposing them to it, showing them like, kind of what we were doing is important. And then Delaney just kind of gravitated toward it. I think for you, I'll let you answer, but for you, it was like actually catching fish, right?
Yeah. I get really frustrated when I'm fishing for like 5 minutes and there's nothing, and I'm just like, I'm done.
So do I.
I love catching, like just catching them. It's great.
So the catching is the best part.
Yeah. Once she started catching, she, that thing that's like, what is it? Addiction, where you just like keep catching. So, she, like a lot of good fishermen, just kind of kept going, getting better and better, and just she fished in Honduras last summer, and, she's here doing all kinds of fishing. She's fishing little tiny dries on, lightweight rods. She's fishing big, heavy sinking line with, 7-inch streamers. She's doing all of the things. So that's kind of a slow advancement. But now she's just barely 16. It took that long, right, for you to be comfortable doing all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think it is for you?
For me, it's just I love going fishing with my family, and I think for me, it's like some people like to play basketball and other people don't like to play basketball. It's not like I'm an anti-fisherman. It's not like the thing that I like to do. I like more the exhilaration of being on the water, and I am always out rafting, either like in tubes with friends or taking my friends out on the boat, because Mom trusts me to do that by myself now, which is nice. And so it's just more of, I just like being out in the wild nature, experience it more in a raw way than rather just like standing still. But other people enjoy that, so.
She thinks there's a bit of an institution, I think, maybe with fishing. I shouldn't speak for you, but like it looks from the outside kind of regimented, or like you have to do it this way, or that people will look at you weird if you're not doing it the exact way or something, which, it's just kind of a bit of a wild child free spirit kind of. So it's like, can seem a little stiff, I guess. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
it's similar with my family. My wife Robin she can cast, and she went to the fishing school twice, but she doesn't enjoy it. It's just not a thing she loves. And Brett never really took to it. Brett's 15. But we spend a lot of time outdoors together. We hike and we look for wild edibles and
awesome.
Mushrooms, and we just hike with the dogs. So we spend a lot of time outdoors. And fishing is Dad's thing, and
Yeah, that's cool. Well, one thing that's neat about Ella identifying with the rafting and with rowing and all that kind of stuff is that for me personally, being able to be a good angler has to do with the water more than the fish. Has to do with reading water, understanding what's happening with the water. So she's already got that. So she's already a better guide than tons of people, who maybe are just starting to get into learning water, reading water, starting to guide, because she's been putting people on fish for so many years, and she's understanding the currents and the flows and that kind of stuff. So that's a cool thing about fishing without her fishing. I think if you a rod, you would probably fish a lot better than you want to admit. She just won't do it. And I can't force her to do it because she won't get a fishing license. She's like, that's the ticket. Like, she's like, if I don't get a license, then I don't have to fish.
That's the kind of friend I want, that doesn't want to fish and wants to row.
Yeah. No, that's what the kids, that's, like she said, she's allowed to go out with her friends on the river by herself. They're like figuring that out. There's like a fair amount of freedom out on the river, so it's kind of a cool thing. And it's a good hang for sure. Yeah.
Well, what's it like in Montana right now? You're in northern Montana, so it's never that crowded. But what's it like on the river and at the boat ramps and stuff? What's going on there?
You mean just kind of with the whole COVID deal, like how things have kind of changed?
Yeah, there are fewer people, or or
well, for starters, the fish are like, what the hell is going on? Like, guides are out fishing. Like, there's an awful lot of bow time happening with all of our local guides. So there's a lot of expert angling happening out there. So we see a bunch of the guides who have been out kind of waiting, for the season to have this delayed start. But we don't have anybody from out of state. So we're on a 14-day quarantine for anyone visiting in from out of state. So we can't guide anybody from out of state unless they've quarantined for 14 days. So we are seeing kind of the people who are breaking that rule and coming in, for their summer vacations. You see them in the parking lots, in the put-ins and takeouts, but they can't get a guide trip. So some people are bringing their boats in and that kind of thing, but people are social distancing. Montana has been awesome for following the rules, in my opinion. Around here, we're pretty good at social distancing anyway. Like, that's our life.
Vermont's the same way.
yeah, right. I mean, you're there for a reason. We're up here for a reason. We're pretty good at it. It's been super awkward. Like yesterday, this guy introduced himself to me at the takeout, and I just reached out my hand and shook his hand. And then his partner was like, whoa. Like,
it's automatic.
Yeah. And it was just automatic. So there's awkward things like that where it's like, you can't, even high five your clients really. We rode with my client yesterday with the, face masks on in the truck. Otherwise they have to, get themselves there. So she actually drove almost to the put-in, and then kind of in the gnarly end part to get to the put-in, she got in and we had our face masks on. So stuff like that's just weird and awkward. Like, can't share food at all, food or snacks or water. They're bringing their own reusable water bottles. People are in the habit of doing that anyway, which is great. But so different things like that have changed. And then like there's been a fair amount of traffic on the river just with locals. Mm-hmm. And that's been cool because it's definitely social distancing. It's neat to see lots of people out, which has been good. And then, they'll go back to work and we won't see them quite as much on the river. And, but yeah, it's not bad. Montana's been awesome. We've been pretty flat for a bit.
Yeah. So Ella and Delaney, I'd like to ask each of you in turn, what a perfect day with mom on the river is like.
Let's see. So a perfect day with my mom would probably be she makes a whole array of very interesting but delicious breakfasts. And one of my favorites was like, she made, I know this isn't what we're supposed to be talking about, but it's really good and I need to share it with the world.
We can talk about anything we want.
And so it was like, she just cut up a bunch of fruit and put like cinnamon and loose granulated sugar on it. And then it was a very nice, it was a very nice breakfast, very easy. And then we took it and we went on the river and I was rowing and she and Lainey were fishing. We were on our drift boat. And then after that, we maybe we'll go on a run somewhere. We have like amazing trails around where we live. There's a multitude of places that we could go, maybe on like a quick trail run. And then we also have like the most insane sunsets here. And so hiking up one of my favorite spots, and just sitting there and watching the day go down would probably be a good one.
That's
I
awesome.
like that. That's nice.
Yeah, that was good.
How about you? How about you, Delaney?
It's like that's real life.
Yeah. How about you, Delaney? How would the day go?
Sorry. Mine would probably be like sleeping in, of course, just a little bit. And then probably crepes for breakfast if we're doing the breakfast thing.
Yeah.
And obviously going on the river, but not a full day, but still catching fish. And then coming back and just having a fire like with our close friends. That's it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people fishing with kids make, one of the mistakes they make is that they don't do it by the kids' schedule. They do it by their own schedule, and they'll take their child out there, son or daughter, and fish really past the point where the kid is bored and doesn't want to do it anymore, or gets hungry. Kids need to eat regularly, and they got to be short trips, and you got to be prepared with food and drinks, and you got to learn the signals that when it's time to quit, even if there's bugs hatching and it's going to be epic, you got to get off the water, right?
Yeah. I think I learned that mostly with skiing with them. Like, that helped me out with fishing, probably skiing first, because they were skiing young, and it was like, it's actually cold, and they actually have to pee, and, they're tired, and they could crash and get hurt. So, but, you heard both of them say, like, their ideal day is going to start with leisurely breakfast, sleeping in, none of this like dawn patrol, maybe eat a granola bar on the way, and like whole, like bell to bell. That's not fun for anybody, because I do tend to like get a little anxious because I want them to have fun. I want them to have a good time. And the main thing is I want them to be able to come back and do it again. I don't want them to say like, this sucks, we never want to do it again.
Yeah.
So the idea that it should be kind of on their time, there is a mix too. Like, you can explain to them why the weather might change and we should go at this time or that time, but it shouldn't be the day of. Or you can explain to them like if the fishing's going to be better in the beginning or the end, or whatever. But expectations is the main thing. Like, what I try to do is explain to them like what the weather's going to be like, what we're going to see out there, where we're going to go, what kind of water it's going to be, what kind of snacks we're going to have, like whether this is kind of a place where we can have music, or if there's going to be other people around, or just what they should have or bring. But giving expectations to kids at any age, I think, is key.
Yep. So, Delaney, what's your favorite fly?
Patriot.
Patriot. That's an Eastern fly.
I love that fly.
That's an Eastern fly.
I don't know why. Like,
that's not a Montana fly.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a different Patriot. We're talking about the Adams Patriot. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, the one with the sparkly body and the kind of traditional hackled.
I don't know even why. It's my favorite one.
It's a killer. Here, they eat it here. But we fish it huge. We fish it big. Like Patriot's so big.
Everything's bigger in Montana.
It's a dropper if you want it. Yeah.
So Ella, if you could have any drift boat that you wanted to row, what would be your dream drift boat? Or would you prefer a raft?
Because I've only ever rowed on one drift boat, and so I guess maybe this is a plug, but the Adipose it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, right out of Helena, Montana, and that's what we've always had. And we've gone everywhere with that thing. We drove it down to the Henry's Fork in Idaho, and all around here, all around Montana, even into the east. And so yeah, that one's a trooper. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I prefer the Raft because I can fit more teenagers on it, but I'm taking these guys around.
Yeah.
So you sometimes just row your friends?
Yeah, I do. One time we had a whole bunch of our family come over from Las Vegas, California, and Seattle, and I rode, I think, like 5 of my cousins on the raft, and it was just me pushing my city slicker cousins, and I think that was like really when I knew that I was kind of good at knowing what to do.
Huh?
Just yelling. Yeah, they were just they'd never been on the water before. So that was like probably the first time you had to do like a safety talk. Really?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody fall in?
I mean, I don't remember this a couple years ago, but if they did, it definitely would not have been my fault. I think it was them not knowing what to do. They're from Las Vegas and they're sitting on a piece of rubber on the river, and but I think it was very fun. It was really cool to connect and tell them about where I live. So
That must have been fun.
yeah.
Must have been exotic for them.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a limit to how many people you can put on a raft? Is there a legal limit?
There is for the drift boat. Like you can't have more than 4 people. But for guiding, I think for fun, we can put as many people as you want. I don't take more than 3 people on a drift boat. Just the end. I mean, I guess we do sometimes, but not, not guiding. But for the raft, no, I don't think so. Somebody else could answer that. I don't know. I don't do it like from a professional standpoint. We don't put a bunch of people on there, but she definitely, it's like a clown car. She'll throw as many people on as the thing can float, and it floats with people. So, but it's fun. Like, it's not like they have a bunch of rods going, like maybe one person, or a lot of times they're just using the boat to get from point A to point B to get to a cool zone. And then all the kids jump out and kind of like do their hang, and a couple people will fish. It's not like serious fishing.
Oh no, I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was. So do we have any I haven't seen any questions. Oh, yes, here's one from Phil. I've heard harrowing rafting stories from Hilary. We've heard a number of those. How has she trained the girls about safety? That's a great question. Thank you, Philip.
Good question. Well, I think the best answer is by example, lead by example. That's what my parents did. My parents kind of raised us, my sister and brother and I, with an on the loose, not helicopter parenting mentality where they let us go. I mean, we went kind of big and fast out there, and we're definitely on the water, kind of going for it at a young age. But we were the ones wearing life jackets, when you'd be out there and maybe it wasn't so cool to be 16 and be wearing a life jacket. We always were wearing life jackets. Riding bikes, we always wore helmets. Skiing, we were probably some of the first kids wearing helmets skiing, when it was just kind of starting to happen. And so, and that was because we knew, like, if we got hurt or in trouble or hurt somebody else, then we'd get cut off. We wouldn't be able to do that anymore. Like, our parents would be like, well, you had your chance, you screwed it up, so, and my parents were like that. They're adventurers, and they were really safety conscious, and not because they were scared, but because, like, if you do this properly and if you think about safety, then you're going to be able to do it again, and that's literally the same mentality with their view on conservation is like, if you take care of it, it'll be there so you could do it again. And safety is the same. And so they kind of led by example that way. So for me, hopefully it's been like that for these girls, is just by me having the proper safety procedures and talking to them about it while we're out there. I mean, I always do a safety talk. I do a safety talk just because my career on the river started as a whitewater river guide. So every time I've got people on the boat, we just start with safety talk. And, that's just how it is. It's kind of the same thing. Like, you get in your car and you're like, seatbelts, when we get on the boat, we get on the river, you kind of run them through the whole deal. This is what can happen out there. This is, so, and I just do that, and I don't feel awkward about it. And I just always do a safety talk. So I think kind of just leading by example. The next step would be if they do like swiftwater rescue, if they want to do something like that. They haven't done a class like that, swiftwater rescue, but if they want to be raft guides or whatever in the future, like, that's kind of part of the deal. So I don't know what else about safety.
No, you covered it.
Yeah. What do you think? Yeah. It's just like leading by example.
Bob wants to know, what's your best memory as a kid fishing or fly fishing or being in the outdoors? What's your best memory? Everybody wants to know your best and your favorite stuff, don't they?
Yeah. Oh. I always think that's so tricky because so many of my memories are other people's
memories, I think that's kind of comes from guiding. Like I remember other people's fish, not my fish. I remember things that happened out on the water to or for other people and not necessarily myself. But for me as a kid, it was, so I was raised in the National Park Service. Both my parents were in the National Park Service. And there was a lot of, like, I talked about kind of being on the loose. Well, this, public land life, like I'm literally a product of public lands. Always, we've kind of been out there, had a lot of what I talked about in the beginning, mud and dirt and frogs and stuff like that. So there was a lot of exploring, like we were even like doing big, huge hikes when I was little, kind of lots of camping. Fishing was a part of it in the way that I think it is for a lot of American families, where maybe you're only fishing going camping, but it'd be the same as like roasting marshmallows. It was just like one of those things. We were not a fishing family. It was just like, let's go on a hike and maybe we'll go fishing. And so it was like, they would buy one spin rod like for everybody, and people would like take turns doing a little fishing and then maybe kind of camping. So I started fly fishing with my sister when we were in like the beginning of middle school, and just kind of self-taught, the two of us, just kind of screwing around. And I think probably that's my fondest memory, is we had a leaky inflatable kayak, and just being able to be on the loose with that. My parents actually would drop us off at Lake McDonald and allow us to paddle around the lake. And then my dad would go to work at headquarters in the park. And then we would just like go out of the lake into Lower McDonald Creek, which goes into the river. And so pretty soon we were like floating the river, and then like back to the lake by 5 o'clock when he got off work. So he didn't know that we'd just floated the river.
Oh God.
that is like the genesis of my feeling of freedom in the outdoors, and is kind of, it's like a little baby taking steps and going. It was like, oh, we're in the lake, now we're in the creek, now we're in the river, and now we need to get back before we get caught. I mean, that was, that's pretty ingrained.
That's a wonderful memory. We got some watercraft questions here. Adam wants to know what raft you guys run.
So I have the Moravia Stream Tech, and I dig it. It's Ella talked about, she likes to row the adipose for putting us on fish and for fishing and like kind of with us, but with the raft, she can go with her friends. Well, the idea with the raft is like, it's so forgiving, and we have such dynamic waters here. So all of our waters are freestone, and they're changing every single day, no matter what. So we've got 3 forks on the Flathead here, and the middle fork is the southern boundary to the park, to Glacier National Park, and the North Fork is the western boundary. They come together to make the main stem, and then the South Fork comes out of the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex here near town, and then they all kind of flow together to Big Lake, to Flathead Lake. And so once they're flowing together, then you're kind of on a rapid free stretch. But the upper forks all are freestone, super dynamic, and rapids, and lots of changing, different, anything from strainers that can come out that you didn't see the day before, to, big boulders that are changing the landscape every single year, to big groundwater aquifers that are changing all of the gravel bars and stuff like that. So really changing a dynamic. And from a safety standpoint, the raft is a super good move up there. So I guide the whitewater stretch, and so the raft is key for guiding the whitewater stretch. But also just for these guys, they want to go out there and not know what to expect. You don't necessarily want to be out in a skiff in water that may have really changed drastically over the last couple, so. Yeah. So I would suggest to people, like, if they're in a similar topography, kind of like a zone that's freestone and not just cobble bottom, but has a really dynamic structure, I would suggest that you start with a raft, and then the skiff is for when, you're really serious about fishing on water that you're going to be able to hold a line, and it's going to be more like, those adipose can take class 2-3s and if you're the right person to row it, but we're normally just taking it on the main stem, which is a long piece of water, and it's great. And we're using that primarily now, in the spring before we get up into the forks.
Another question. Luke wants to know, do you have any of you guys have experience with the smaller rafts like Flycraft, Watermaster?
Watermaster for sure. I love the Watermaster. So Watermaster, in fact, I thought I have this like dream that all these guys like would have their own Watermaster and all the friends are kind of tooling around. But now Watermaster has that 2-man, which is awesome. I haven't rode that, but I would love to, and that would be super fun, I think, for these guys with a friend or for one person and a friend. But the classic Watermaster, I mean, I've always loved. It's great. It's great. Also, when you're, maybe not sure if you even want to float, you're going from point A to point B, and it's easy and accessible. You don't have to worry about putting in a trailer. You're by yourself, and you're not sure of your shuttle situation, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Watermaster for sure. I think they're stable and secure and super durable. Yeah, I dig those for sure.
Great.
Something about these Montana made, brands. These companies are awesome.
Do you agree, Ella? Watermaster?
I've never been on a Watermaster before, but that sounds very good to me.
Okay. Here's a good one for all three of you. From Jeff. You ready for this one?
I don't know.
My wife wants to bring a potty bucket on my boat. I said, no, just use the woods. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. He's very right. Don't bring a potty bucket.
I think potty bucket's fine.
Here we go. How about you, Delaney? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it depends on if he says, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, I guess.
Okay, sorry, but you have issues peeing all the time. She's like, she can pee in the woods, but it has to be like pretty perfect. Like she's like, well, like Jolene, our dog, she has to look for the spot. Like she'll go around and like look for the spot forever.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mom, you're embarrassing me.
Go wherever. Ella just can go wherever. But I think there's nothing wrong with a potty bucket on the boat. You just pour it out. But it's weird. Jeff,
That's disgusting. No, that's gross.
No, it's not gross. So Jeff, this is my opinion. Like she says it's gross. She's like, what? But Delaney knows this because we've been fishing lakes and this, run up, and I don't want to lose the spot. So I bring a sarong. So I'll have like a sarong, and if you have a long skirt like a sarong, you can pee in anything. Yeah. So you bring a bucket. You can be that, because here's the thing. Like we've been fishing lakes and there have been a bunch of boats. Be all embarrassed. Sorry. There have been a bunch of boats like all around us. So it's hard to hang your butt off of the side. Like if you're literally mooning somebody.
Well, it's dangerous too.
Yeah. I mean,
it can be dangerous.
The adipose is super stable. Like you can hang off to the side and it's not, but other boats are trickier. If they're high profile and tippy or whatever. Yeah, no, everybody could, on an adipose, everybody could pee off of the same, edge. But anyway, it's more like I'm a lady. Don't want to like moon everybody. So like if I have a song, and I did, didn't I? Like I peed in
I don't need to know that.
But it was actually a Yeti cup. And
Mom, stop.
Oh, was it do they sell one for that?
It could be, I help with a little bit of R&D here and there. So this,
that could be a new product for Yeti.
No, I mean, that's it. My personal opinion, this is a serious thing for Jeff to say, is like, whatever is going to help you have a good day. I mean, there's just no right and wrong way. It's like, there's no right or wrong way. As long as like you're safe, you're having fun, you're thinking of, your conservation life out there. What else? Everything else is just like style points, So if you lose style points with your kids for like peeing in a cup, then, so be it. But it's just whatever like makes you, have a good day together. It's nothing to fight over. There's at all.
Here's a question from our good mutual friend, Todd Tanner.
Well, hey, Todd.
This is for Ella and Delaney. I'm trying to teach Kyan how to row the drift boat. What tips do you guys have for him?
I don't know. I mean, it's always just like, I don't know. It's always been very natural, and like obviously like all kids are going to like resist any type of you like, especially at his age, kids are always going to be a little resistant to their parents. Like that's when like you're teaching your like kids how to drive. Like the kids don't want to be told that they're doing it wrong, even though they could, even if they're doing it right, they could be doing it better. So I would just say like he's stressed. Like that's a very big responsibility. Is like you have everybody's like lives in your hands, and even more important than your life, your fishing experience. So and so I would say like, I don't know. I don't think I'm good at answering that, but just like I know for me, I kind of, obviously like I had very good instruction, but also I was so like hot-headed and so hard-headed that I was like, I'm just going to learn this by myself. And so I just kind of was like, no, I got it. And then after lots of trial and error, I figured it out. But I don't know. You just have to kind of feel it, and you just have to always be looking. And this might be controversial to say, but I think it's easier than you think. Obviously not on whitewater, but if you're on a pretty mellow stretch, you don't always have to be doing something. A little twist here and there will be just fine. So
Yeah, good. That's good.
That's a great answer.
Yeah,
That's a great answer.
I agree.
Thank you, Ella.
The thing that I pulled out of that for Kian that she said is being able to make your mistakes. I mean, you know, Kian is a beautiful angler, really good fisherman. He had Todd teach him, and he's just got a great cast. And so I think that he's also a very good athlete, soccer player and stuff. And so I think that he's going to want to be perfect at rowing pretty quick. But what Ella was saying is like, you know, I just we went safety first, put her out in a safe stretch and let her spin around. Like she, you know, it's like she figures it out. She'd spin around, and she had the instruction. Like I taught her how to row, but then it wasn't like, okay, now you're doing it wrong. I taught her how to row, and then I was like, okay, go try this. And I would just shut up. I'd be in the boat in case I needed to jump on the sticks, but I just shut up. Like because if she starts going the wrong way, I don't need to be like, you're going the wrong way. You know, I'd let her bump the bank, and she knows she's going the wrong way, and she fix it. She knows what to do. So yeah, I would say like, don't be afraid to make some mistakes. After the instruction, like after you've really taught, then I would say, Todd, let Kian ask, you know, what do I do here? What do I do there? There have been times, remember, when I did jump on the sticks. Like she would get into some trouble. Like we'd be going towards something that she didn't feel comfortable, and she would like be like, Jesus, take the wheel.
yeah, but this was a while ago.
Yeah. Like she was learning.
Not anymore, right? Not anymore.
There were a few times when she was like, and yanking the oars and switch, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I would let her get to that point. Or I would say like, there were a couple times too, and she would be trying, and it wasn't, we might not make it, you know, this part. And I'd be like, all right, let's switch. And she knows enough about safety that's not when she would be hot-headed. Like she was like, okay, you go, Mom. And then she wasn't like, I'm done. She'd be like, okay, back on it. So she just kind of kept going. She definitely made some mistakes that she learned from that didn't scare her away, you know. Well, I think the real answer is that he should come up and float with us.
Yeah. How far away is Todd from you?
Oh, just half an hour.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Let's
Do you have any
see.
suggestions again?
I don't know.
You don't row. You do row. She just like Delaney's way of rowing is little lily dipping, you know. She'll like kick back. You're on the oars she's on the oars more than she wants to admit, because she is an angler, so she doesn't want to like suddenly get into the thing of rowing everybody, because then that means she can't fish. But you do.
Yeah, when I row buddies, I personally, I'm not very good, but I screw up even more than I should. Then they take me off the oars, so I get to fish.
Yeah. No, my favorite line is if like somebody says, "Oh, that's a nice boat." I'm like, "Yeah, the problem is the oars don't fit my hands."
So let me. I don't see any questions. Lots of Potty Bucket comments. But I want to ask the three of you, environmentally, what keeps you up at night?
I can go first.
Yeah, good.
Probably the fact that I live in a very I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world, but also, like Mom said, we've pretty much been social distancing since day one, like forever. And so a lot of people here aren't exposed to I don't know how to explain this, but they don't really see, even though they live in a place that like Uber needs to be protected, they don't understand that they can't just like, when we're on the river, they can't, if a wrapper of something falls into the lake or into the river and it's gone, they're like, oh, well, too bad. And so there's a lot of other conservation related topics that concern me, but probably as where I am right now, and a lot of my friends, just sometimes the sad truth is that they don't understand that that they're more than, I don't know how to explain it, but they just don't understand how sacred where we live is, and that not a lot of other people have what we have, and that they need to do what they can to keep it wild and keep it like available for everybody. So they're not that concerned about like using plastic and just things like that, just like little things. It's also hard for teenagers because I'm like a huge coffee addict, and so it's hard to like not always get it, like to remember my Yeti and not always get a plastic cup, but I'm always trying to remind my friends at the store not to use plastic bags. And it's just, a lot of it is people here are used to convenience, and it just was a little mind-boggling because we live in one of the like best places in the world, yet it's almost like they're fighting the stigma of like, I don't know, they think that not getting plastic makes them weak or something. It's so weird and so dumb, but so I guess that's what I was like trying to tiptoe around saying, but yeah,
It's like our role in it.
it's really frustrating. But so that's probably something that bugs me, and that's probably, I always am trying to remind them whenever I'm with them to not get plastic bags at the grocery store, and to just try to like, when we're on the river, like try to not bring stuff that already is in plastic that can be added to the water. And like, I don't know why they're so careless, but that makes me sound a little pretentious, but it's just frustrating.
Not at all. And you're setting a good example, and I'm sure that eventually it'll get through to them.
I mean, I'm guilty as well. Like I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I don't know. A lot of people here not perfect as well.
Yeah, it sucks to try to police stuff. You know, you don't want to be like
Yeah.
bossy to people.
But then again, sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
How about you, Delaney? What bothers you the most?
Well, a lot of things bother me, but I feel like plastic is also a really big thing. Like I do, like I mess up, like I get some sometimes and it's not great, but it just bothers me how like people are just so like oblivious to it. They're just like, oh, whatever, I'm just throw it out the window. It's like, no, you can go clean up the ditch if you want.
Yeah, we still have a fair amount of littering, which I know to like East Coasters are, I mean, we still have people, just because we've got so much space, people still like old school litter. It's weird. Yeah, it's really weird.
Littering bothers me so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's weird. I think for me, do you have anything else about what keeps you up at night?
No.
I think for me, it's that these guys are kicking the same dirt. I grew up here. This is my hometown. And they're kicking the same dirt, that I did, and get to have the same adventures, do the kind of same stuff. And what keeps me up at night is that when we think about protecting places for our children's children, this is just children. Like I'm thinking of their children. And that's what is spooky to me, is like how many generations, after this one are going to be able to do what we do. And our role right now is going to determine that. So I try not to, beat myself up about that, but I do think about like the generations, not just like what impacts us now. Like we love to fish, it's super fun, like we're having a great time, yay, but that's not where it ends. It's not like, oh, we have a nice time outdoors, yay. It's like what happens to their kids and their kids' kids. Like that's kind of
it's a pretty basic rule of the national park system, of course, and our public lands are meant to be protected for our children's children, but it's a really literal thing that keeps me up at night. It's like, okay, like how selfish are we that we can enjoy this now without, planning for their future, their kids' future. That's what keeps me up at night.
And what's the biggest threat right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have all of these different things that are impacted by the big overall picture of climate, and climate change is something that we see impacting so many different things in our livelihood here. And so it's easy for us to see it. The solutions can be a little bit harder for us here in Northwest Montana to implement. But the climate is for me, kind of the overall big picture. That's just like cannot pass go and deal with all of these other things that have to do with habitat and wildlife and fish unless we address climate first and biggest. First, biggest, most, like it is climate action. And that's going to kind of be the place that we need to look now and first, and should have been forever before all of those other things, because all of those other things will fall into place if we can take care of climate. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Do you advise anglers to fall out of the drift boat when attempting to land big fish? From Chad. Is that maybe a private joke or something?
It's a bit of a private joke, like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Chad, this is a plug for Adipose, because that boat is so stable that sometimes people forget they're in a boat. He caught a big fish and was tripping, and started walking backwards. You know how, like, if you're on the shore, if you're on the bank and you're kind of like walking backwards to kind of get under control. So he kind of like is starting to walk backwards and walked himself right out the side of the Adipose with a big fish on. And, just getting into fishing, he like, I see him like reach up to me as he's going ass over tea kettle, like he's going in like backwards, and the rod goes up like this. I grab the rod, big fish on, and I just hand it over to his wife, who angles it. Like, and she was like not, into fishing yet. And she just full on like angles it. And as he's still in the water, I'm like giving her the fish and the net, and she's like dealing with it. And we're, kind of trying to get to a place with him on the side as he's like coming up, to get up. So yeah. So do I advise it? I think it's definitely something that you can give to your children's children as a lovely memory. Picture of the dripping wet fisherman who is, holding the fish that his wife ended up, landing.
Was it fast water, like fast deep water too?
Yeah, I mean, it was not like full on rapids, but it was thick water. It was fast deep water. It was, and not only that, but like, he couldn't just get back in right there. We had to get through a little bit. So I had him just lounge chair position, holding on to the side of the Adipose until I could kind of row us into an eddy. So he did have to ride out a bit of a little rapid, with just lounge chair holding on to the side, which is nice. So the Adipose is like low profile. So he's got his hand up here and just like had to ride it out. Fortunately, it was not waders and stuff. It was like summer, warm in shorts. Yeah.
Well, that's the kind of fishing story you remember forever.
I know. Totally. Yes, I advise it. People are like, we should fall out.
Darwin wants to know, what kind of things should one bring when fishing with elementary age kids?
Snacks. Yeah. Speak up. Say that again.
Snacks.
First and foremost.
Keep them.
Nap.
Say it again.
Snacks.
Snacks. Oh, yeah. Snacks. Oh,
which one?
Whatever they like.
Yeah.
What's your favorite snack? What's your favorite fishing snack, Delaney?
Popcorn.
Popcorn.
Yeah. And they get to get whatever they want. Like, when they were young, it was like, I mean, we eat healthy at home. And when we'd go on the river, Ella said fried chicken. That's fried chicken's probably the staple that we get on the river. So like Ella doesn't get popcorn, she said, but yeah, fried chicken. What else?
Well, it's new popcorn. You haven't been on the river with us.
Oh. So I think if it's a special treat, like whatever. So that helps. Like Delaney still says that. I said, do you want to go on the river tomorrow? And she's like, what snacks? What are we going to have for snacks? And it's kind of whatever they want. Like I let them have, candy if they want, candy bar, whatever. Like they get to pick out a treat. Still, I mean, here they are like in high school. I'm like, you can get your own treat. What treat do you want to go on the river? But it still works. So snacks is probably the number one thing for elementary kids. And then from a technical standpoint, layers, warm. Like no matter what, including if they want to swim. Like if it's super hot outside and you don't bring extra clothes, if they want to swim, if a little breeze comes up, they get cold. So extra change of clothes. I would also say stuff for the bank. Like if you get out on the bank, and you want to throw rocks, we used to always bring like shovels and buckets. That was always key. So we're talking about like pastime stuff, like fun things that make you have fun on the river as opposed to like technical fishing things. The other thing is like a life jacket that is super comfortable because they need to keep it on all day. Even when they're like on the bank, when they're young, these guys were constantly swimming eddies. So they jump in, in kind of a rapid and like float down their life jacket, swim into the eddy, do that kind of thing. So they always had on their life jackets. But it has to be like a high-end, nice life jacket that fits, like with narrow straps here. That's not like, and you can even have the pillow on the back of your life jacket that is not super high profile, but still is going to keep their head out of the water and safe. PFDs that are comfortable and they don't mind wearing all day, I think are key. Closed-toed shoes. These guys like will maybe have sandals on the boat, but they get out and can have boots or shoes and tromping around. Sunglasses for sure. Always with the sunglasses, no matter what. Like Ella will always be wearing sunglasses even if she's not fishing, just because there's hooks flying around. Other people are fishing, and I have bad eyes, and it was because I didn't have proper sunglasses when I was young. So like for elementary school kids, I would still get nice polarized sunglasses because if they're out on the water, those eyes aren't going to get any younger or any healthier, So sunglasses for sure, sunscreen or hats, big wide brim hats, keeping sun off of them. These are the things that like make me sound like such an old lady. Like, take care of yourself. You're gonna be like me with chipped teeth and bad skin, and
No, just a smart lady, not an old lady.
Do as I say, not as I did. I definitely made a lot of mistakes in elementary school for how to take care of myself. But those kinds of things, water, lots of water. I always bring like flavor packets for water too when we have lots of different kids, because it makes it kind of fun. What else?
An extra pair of socks for each child, because wet socks equal a very unhappy day.
Oh yeah.
And so that's always something to have an extra of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say for gear, other parts of gear for fishing, elementary school kids love to help with the net job. So make sure you have a big, long-handled boat net if you're in the boat, because if you're catching the fish, the kids not, like they have just as much fun netting fish. Make sure you've pinched all the barbs so kids can let your fish off. Like these guys, even before really Delaney started fishing, she was netting fish and releasing fish for me. Like she thought that was her job. If I catch a fish, she's releasing them. So like
kind of is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. What else? That's it. It's good.
I got one thing to add. One of those little portable aquariums that, cheap little portable aquariums, and then the kids, they can look for bugs underwater or frogs or turtles or whatever.
Yeah. That's cool.
That's usually a big thing for kids. I mean, a lot of the younger kids have more fun looking for mayflies and stuff than they do fishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. binoculars and,
Yeah.
to take pictures and see things. And and sometimes, like, one of the things that was frustrating for me is if the kids would ask me what something is and I didn't know. So I like to have guidebooks and that kind of stuff, like, in my drive storage, just so you can look and sound smarter than you are. But that, that's just constant, like, science class out there. So definitely super fun. Elementary school can be tricky because, like, they're at that age where they're getting big so they can row and fish with, like, not a kid rod, and so it's just being patient. And the gear you have for a kid in elementary school, the gear you have is probably going to be fun, fit them, and it's going to work great.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not just little kids anymore. They're big kids. Is he frozen or something? I think, no, he's reading a thing. She's like, is he frozen? Because you're, like, reading.
No, I'm reading the question. Do you notice differences in behavior in the Westslope cut versus the Yellowstone cut?
Kind of. I mean, here, so our native cutthroat is native black spotted Westslope. So we have Yellowstone that are up in the Cirque lakes, in the backcountry, like in the Bob Marshall Wilderness Complex, and in some other lakes that were planted way before that was not part of the program anymore. So we haven't done any of that, since the 80s. There have been no stocked rivers in Montana since the 80s. And so we're really focusing on our native Westslope cutthroat. So here, in my personal opinion, my observation of Westslopes versus Yellowstones, our Westslope are pretty thrashy. They fight, but they kind of fight at the surface, tons of, like, head thrashing. They don't kind of bulldog head down, whereas Yellowstones tend to be a little bit more consistent in their pull, as opposed to kind of like that thrashy, spinny Westslope action. Our Westslopes are erratic, just, like, all over the place, which, can make it fun angling, but you have to kind of be ready or not to have to be good. Because if they hit hard and they go the other way, and you're learn that you're supposed to kind of set against the opposite direction against their face, that people tend to break off a fair amount if they've been fishing Yellowstones, where Yellowstone will eat and then run or kind of bulldog a little bit more, cutthroat go up to the top and start, thrashing around a little bit more. So Yellowstone's mostly, for me, fishing Yellowstones here up in the Cirque Lakes. Yellowstones down around the rest of the state tend to be kind of a hardier, bigger pull and thrust, as opposed to kind of that thrashy Westslope action. So yeah, that's my personal observation for the Westslopes here. And Westslope is our bread and butter for sure. Yellowstones are fun, and the other parts of the state, I like them, but they tend to act a little bit more like rainbows in the fight for me, in terms of more consistent run, pull. They don't jump like rainbows, but different fight.
Well, we have a lot of people thanking us here.
Yeah. One more thing about the Yellowstones. In the eat, you tend to see, like, a lot of Yellowstones that'll kind of eat consistently, where you can actually fish for feeding cutthroat, which is such a cool experience. Here, we kind of tend to call our cutthroat slutty cutties. They will, like, attack a fly and go crazy, but it's not always in a hatch. We just don't have those prolific hatches. And so you're not consistently seeing fish eat like this. It's just going to be smashing erratic in the fight as it is in their feed. You don't get into big pockets of, like, consistently feeding Westslopes.
Well, ladies, we've been talking for an hour. And I want to thank the three of you for coming on today. It was really fun to have all three of you.
Yeah,
and there's been some great answers, some wonderful ideas, and I'm sure that everyone that's tuned in enjoyed it. I certainly had fun today.
Cool. Well, thanks. We should do it again sometime. This is a great way to force the kids to talk with me.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it again.
Says that we need to spend more time at the kitchen table.
Okay, well, we'll do it again then. That's a promise. I'm sure that all the listeners would approve of that as well. So let's think of an interesting topic that the four of us can discuss.
Right on. Well, good. Well, thanks for having us. It's
All
fun.
right,
And
And
I'm
that-
excited for the kids to meet you.
and thanks for everyone for tuning in today. I hope everyone stays happy and healthy and gets outside. And tomorrow, who are we talking to tomorrow? I can't remember. Oh well. Anyways, oh, I know. We're talking to Pete and Jackie tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm talking to Pete and Jackie about the kind of the virtual schools that we're.
Awesome.
So that will be really fun.
Yeah, cool. Well, we will tune in for sure.
All right, good. Give us some snide remarks, please.
I don't have time remarks.
Oh, come on. Okay, well, I know where they can come from then. All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. See you soon.
See you guys. See everybody out there.
Don't turn it off yet.
I don't know if I